I'll always remember this. I remember this was in an essay I wrote sometime, but my stepfather was moving into our house and he had this giant painting of a polar bear and he hung it up on the wall, and my mom goes, "That's Sheldon's spirit animal." And I was like, "Fuck you. Get me out of here. This is not my family."
They're nuts.
Yeah.
Welcome to my first English episode of my podcast.
What a pleasure.
What? Can you believe that? I'm so glad that you're here, though.
Thank you for having me.
Are you kidding me? How would I not? Like, one of the reasons why I started the podcast is to kind of record the awesome conversations that I have with my friends.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have our fair share of very interesting conversations.
Sure.
Throughout the years.
Yes, we do.
So kind of the first question that I do, it's more free format. Like, do not worry. It's
Okay.
not like there's a right way or wrong way of doing or saying anything.
Okay.
But one of the things that I do is because people technically know me, but they don't know who you are.
Sure.
So, how are we friends? How do we know each other? Will be my question.
Well, we met at the University of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And I think
But for a whole year, we didn't necessarily
for a whole year, we didn't really know each other too well. We got closer when we got paired up in the same group.
Yeah.
Called the Sacred Yes group.
That we later renamed.
To the Order of the Pineapple.
Yes.
Thanks to you. For anyone watching, this was a story about, you may tell it better, but it involved, if someone was having an emergency situation, they would send a pineapple emoji.
Yeah.
And the name just took off from there.
Yeah. It was basically
How did that start, the pineapple emoji as an emergency?
Because we were already in our groups. We were already having meetings.
Yes.
And we had meetings back then on the first year. It was every other week. So basically every single Saturday we were either in class or in a pineapple call.
That's right.
So it got to a point that it was too much for me because there was so much coming up for me.
Yeah.
There was like,
totally. And
I was kind of like scared. This is what happens in podcasts. We're in my home, so the noises you hear are from my neighbors. It's okay.
We're in a football stadium.
So it just got too much for me. It just got to a point where I was like, I can't. And then Robert suggested, what about you sending a bat signal? And I'm like, what? I'm going to say a pineapple emoji? And then he was like, yeah.
Oh, so it was a joke.
It was a joke.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was something that you previously did with your friends.
No.
Okay.
I don't know why. There's a lot of people whose, like, safe word is pineapple.
Okay.
There's a lot of, like, pineapple is actually a word that a lot of people have for, like, you know, when you're in an argument with somebody and you say pineapple, it's a pause.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, like, you're in the middle of an argument, you have a pause button as a couple, usually.
People use pineapple.
A lot.
Wow.
So I guess pineapple wasn't my consciousness in a way. And I was like, what? I'm going to say an emoji of pineapple? And, like, he was like, yeah. I'm like, what does it mean when I send a pineapple? He's like, no, it's just like you're in panic mode.
SOS.
Yeah, I need help. I don't know what I need help with. And it kind of became a way of like asking for help without me. Like, it was kind of like triggering myself to ask for help because I didn't used to ask for help. Now I'm pretty sure I'm better at it.
That's good. So that was a breakthrough moment for you.
That was huge.
The pineapples.
Of course.
I remember that being kind of a novel concept for me as well. Like,
really?
Well, yeah, just being like, wow, I could actually really be like going through something and I could just send this pineapple and you got, the thing is like the crazy thing about this chain is like people respond right away.
Right away. That's a 911
like it was a bat signal.
It
was like the response was instantaneous. Our friend Johanna would come through with
Robert 100% will either call or text. But for me, pineapple moment, here's the thing. I have never actually used the pineapple emoji.
No.
I haven't.
Even now.
Even now.
So it opened the window to being able to ask for help, but you never actually used the symbol.
I don't think. I'm pretty sure.
I don't believe you.
I think I'm pretty sure. Like, I think I haven't. I truly do not think I have. Well, I'll go through my text and just do pineapple emoji, and it will show up if I did or not. But it will be like it was more of the fact that I knew that I was able to ask for help, and then I wouldn't get to the moment that I needed the pineapple, so I would help myself before that. So I will reach out to you guys and be like, I'm not in a pineapple moment yet, but I'm getting there.
I see.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like, help me guys out. But maybe I have. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I guess we became very close because of that.
Yes.
And then also, we relate to each other a lot, I feel, because you're also a coach. But I love the fact, how did the coach thing came about for you? Like, there was one day that you woke up, you were working with your coach, and you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a coach for other people.
No, I mean, I wanted to be a therapist. I knew I wanted to help people in some capacity because my former career was in journalism.
Yeah.
I wrote for men's magazines.
For fashion,
I wrote about fashion for men's magazines, correct?
Yeah.
And including other things, travel.
Yeah.
Lifestyle, they called it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But as I started to do my healing work, that lit me up. The passion to think about maybe guiding other people through that was really got me. So, and I nerded out hard in it, and I thought I was going to become a therapist. I actually was enrolled in a graduate program to go get your master's in counseling.
What?
And then I decided to go to USM simultaneously, and then I think a few months of USM went by because I wasn't sure if I was going to like USM.
Okay.
A few months of USM went by. I had gotten into the grad program.
Okay.
And then I actually, I mean, this is a fucking weird story, but
no, yeah, I want it.
I actually had a session with what's that?
Admission. I was gonna say. Admission.
No, I had a session with a psychic.
Okay.
And he was it's a guy, his name is Ainsley McLeod. He's very well known. He has multiple books.
Okay.
And I was getting a session from him as a thank you for including him in an article I wrote for Men's Health.
Okay.
He said, "Thanks for including me. This is awesome. I got lots of new, people from this. Here, I'm going to give you a reading," because his wait list was like 4 months long.
You always get into this wait list with very interesting people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's such a nice man. Him and his wife are wonderful.
Awesome.
And they're up in like the Seattle area.
Okay.
And he was on Oprah. I mean, he's like done the whole deal. Anyway,
wow.
So I happened to have this session with Ainsley.
Okay.
And Ainsley, his guides in the session came through and said, "Coaching."
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said he's like I wouldn't give you this much direction unless they come through very clear, being like, this is what you need to do. And he says he almost said, which I don't think psychics are supposed to do, but he almost said, don't go to get
program.
Yeah. And I was already having feelings like I shouldn't go anyway.
Okay.
Because I was looking at the student loans and I was like, I'm gonna spend all this. Mine was about $150,000 to go to this
again.
Yeah.
To go to school again.
Yeah. So anyway, my pump was already primed before this chat with Ainsley. But after the chat with Ainsley, I was like, well, shit. I mean,
damn.
Okay. So he said, look into coaching, and I was already curious about coaching. I had conversations with, I mean, the thing about being in USM is I met all these coaches.
I was gonna say, because that's where you met your coach, right?
I met my former coach there.
Your former
John,
coach, yeah.
Yep. And then I met a bunch of other coaches.
Yeah.
And so I was already curious about this coaching thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the difference was between like coaching and therapy. I just wanted to work with people.
Okay.
How
would you describe? I mean, because I'm pretty sure you do this too, but I do this a lot. Describing the difference between therapy and coaching for people, like.
I mean, the quick one for me is like therapy tends to be past focused.
Yeah.
Coaching tends to be present and future. Of course, you dip into the past if there's things we need to sort of shore up or resolve there.
Yeah, I usually say the same thing, and I add also the action piece.
Yeah, because the action piece is huge.
Yeah, I feel like in therapy you do get to understand the concept and thing, and you understand your brain and all that kind of stuff. But like the action and accountability piece,
huge,
is definitely like around coaching, and I think that's where actually things happen.
Without a doubt. I mean, I went to talk therapy for years and years and years, and I went in and I had my 50 minutes or my whatever, 45 minutes, an hour, and I sat there and I spilled everything out and I left and I came back next week and I didn't do anything different in between.
Holy shit. How long do you think you did that for?
I did it for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went to talk therapy for at least 5 or 6 years, probably in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your story is so interesting now that I think about it. Obviously I know you, but it's just like you have so many different aspects and pieces about your childhood in the middle, and the fact that you're comfortable with a psychic and all this kind of stuff.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, definitely.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
How did you know that you wanted to coach only men?
I guess I felt particularly connected to speaking to men because I had been doing it already.
Yeah.
In my previous career. Like, I loved helping men with their lives.
Of course, that makes sense.
And granted, my old career was doing it more on a surface level, like telling them how to dress and stuff. But, like, it still was helping a man solve a problem.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that I got really connected to men's coaching because of my own story. I lost my dad when I was 22. Mm-hmm. So that journey that I went on following that, being like, what is a man? Who am I? All that stuff felt very tied to the male process.
Got it.
Which is different than than the process that women undergo
100%
in on the inward journey.
Yeah. For sure.
So I nerded out on them. Like, I got, I started reading all these authors there was a men's movement in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
It was sometimes called the mythopoetic men's movement, led by this guy, Robert Bly, who wrote a famous book called Iron John.
Okay.
And he was a poet as well, but he also happened to be a guy who led these big men's conference and retreats where all these men would come and do like grieving work.
Wow.
Yeah, and they would, and it was also like heavily based on kind of like more like rites of passage stuff. So there would be like, drumming and fires and sweat lodges.
Like very tribal?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, because essentially Bly's like his argument was that rites of passage for men are not natural in the same way that they are for women. Like, a woman
creates a being.
Yeah, well, a woman gets her period.
Yes,
at a young age, right? Yeah. And that is its own initiation because it's very much in the body.
That's so true. Yeah.
Versus like men in indigenous cultures and tribes used to have a very distinct rite of passage that also involved the body.
Oh, wow.
Like, there would be a ritual space that the boys would be taken to and have an actual body experience. Like, whether it was like, sometimes they would get tattoos or get scarred or get maimed or like, go on a vision quest where they would fast. So it's a body thing.
Okay.
So like, men don't have an automatic body thing like women do.
Got it.
So Bly's whole thing was like, those rites of passage have essentially been erased.
Wow.
And now we sort of have these pseudo rites of passage. Like, if you're in the army, you sort of get a rite of passage. Like, you go to boot camp.
Okay.
If you're a guy who goes, maybe comes out of college and gets a job, you sort of have an initiation. Like, you get, you like get your cubicle or something. Yeah. And you get a mentor, maybe, like if you work in finance or something.
Got it.
You work in a kitchen.
Yeah.
You have you're on the line, right?
Yep.
You're an apprentice.
No, and then and you have a hierarchy to kind of like follow.
But it's not spoken about and known. It's not like, okay, here comes your initiation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obsessed with Vikings and I watch a lot of Viking shows.
Okay.
When Viking young boys were like 12 or 13, they got an arm ring from the lord of their village or whatever.
Tribe, yeah.
And now they were a man.
Oh, wow.
And now they were expected to like go fight and
got it.
So it was like, that shit doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. It's so interesting because my mind is obviously going to the unhealthy ways of thinking that you're a man.
Yeah.
Like,
sure. You mean like sleep with as many people as you can and like drink, get fucked up.
But it's true. I mean, I don't know, but it's also like the whole like your first getting drunk or the first time that you have, or your dad will send you to like get, have sex and it ends up being with a hooker or something like that. Like, so I'm also thinking of like the very toxic ways that maybe because of those tribal things that kind of went away and there's no traditional culture that maybe this things came around that it just really not healthy, I would say, for guys.
100%. I would say that my sort of like pseudo initiation was I was in a fraternity in college.
I was gonna ask you about like what it meant for you.
So to in my fraternity, it was like, there was, the cool thing about it is it was actually a secret society. It was quite old. It was like one of the 3 oldest fraternities or something in the country. So there was actually a rich history to it, which we had to learn.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of a cool piece. We learned
Yeah.
songs, which is very like, that's very tribal. Like
Okay,
learn the
yeah.
songs, learn the history
Like
of
the
your
beat
of
of
your
things.
people, of your
Uh-huh.
community, right? So yeah, that part was great, but then it also came on the side with like a boatload of drugs and sort of like emotional verbal hazing, like getting
the
slapped
usual
and,
trauma.
yeah, all that shit. So, but yeah, I mean, that would have sort of been the closest thing that I would have had, and essentially was initiated by a bunch of drug addicts to being a drug addict myself.
Wow. And,
Although it was fun, it was fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's everything to it. Everything once, I think it will be fun.
Yeah.
Once it becomes a habit, I think that's when things can get a little crazy.
Yeah.
When we started like doing that stuff. But holy shit! So you were in a fraternity? I didn't know this.
I was.
For all 4 years of college, or
In my college, we didn't rush until sophomore year.
okay,
So one of my best buddies from high school went to the college that I went to, and he was a year ahead of me because I took a year off between high school and college.
oh okay,
So by the time I got to college, he was already in this fraternity.
okay.
It was like the cool fraternity. It was like the rich kid cocaine fraternity. And I wanted to be a rich kid doing cocaine.
I mean, that's it.
Because I grew up very middle class, but then around the age of 6 or 7, my dad got remarried to someone who came from a lot of wealth. So my stepmother came into my life, and we all of a sudden had a very different lifestyle.
Got it.
All of a sudden we had multiple homes and
Yeah.
the lavish vacations and all that stuff, and that was not what I grew up with for the first portion of my life.
Got it.
So yeah,
This kind of became that's perfect. That's a perfect place where I belong in my new reality.
I don't know. I mean, I think I always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I didn't have a great relationship with my stepmother.
Got it.
So I always kind of just went in that direction, I think, as a way of proving myself.
Yeah.
Like, see, like, these kids like me,
this.
like these, like, all these fancy people like me. I mean, if I describe, like, the first, like, 30 some odd years of my life, it can basically be summed up in that line.
Yeah.
Look, all these fancy people like me.
So I'm always fascinated by knowing you, and like your writing, for instance, is something that I told you. Like for me, there was a whole part of you that I got to know because of your writing, and there's so much of like I do not. Sometimes I have a hard time visualizing the person you were like back then.
Me too.
But like at the same time, it's like I know that guy. Like there was a part of my life where I knew that kind of person, or even wanted to be with somebody like that. That might be a little bit more on the tip of his shoulder. I'm this big deal kind of thing, trying to prove to people things.
Yeah.
And I just sometimes find it very mesmerizing. Yet at the same time, every time I see on your healing and the talks that we have, it's like, oh, I understand why this is so important for you, because you need to overcome this and that, or all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I just find it fascinating that there's like, it's not two sides of you, but it's almost like your past is just fascinating.
Thanks.
Because it really does make you the very rich, wise person that you are today.
A lot of I've definitely had a diversity of experience, between. I mean, my parents. I think this starts with my parents were extremely different people.
That's so true.
So driven by
That's so
completely
true.
different things.
Yeah.
Should have never ended up together, except for the fact that they did.
And they had you.
And they had me, right? So I had both of. I have both of them in me,
Yeah.
And I've been. I feel like money and power and finances and stuff has been coming up a lot in just conversations with friends lately. And I've been saying, my line has been, to my mother, money was the worst thing in the world, and to my dad, it was the best thing in the world.
Oh, holy
so
shit.
that created like a chaos inside of me of like, well, what is that? What do I think about this?
I'm having an aha moment because I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also at the same time, I don't know if the experience with your dad around money was that it gave him power or it gave him status more than the fact that it was
status.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it wasn't like my dad was mostly attached to status, because my dad, is very intergenerational. My dad was adopted and was his mom worked in the library at like a very prestigious prep school in Connecticut, and so he got to go for free.
Okay.
So he got to go experience an environment that he never otherwise would have experienced.
Oh, wow.
So he always had a chip on his shoulder too.
Got it.
So that was very much, ingrained in me. Because my dad was on a a rocket ship up, like he was just Mr. Upward Mobility, and so like marrying my stepmother Sandy was like the height of that for him.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was actually the descent from that led to his death. He killed himself. So it was like that lifestyle was he was relying on her for that lifestyle. Yeah, because he like stopped working when they got together.
Wow.
Because he didn't have to.
Got it.
I mean, he had an office and he hustled. My dad was definitely a hustler. He was amazing with people. Funny, charismatic, magnetic. Yeah. People loved him. Yeah. But he would hustle and do his side projects and stuff, and he had some consulting gigs and things like that. But he didn't really work. He wasn't like brilliant.
Got it. Yeah, but I also see then your mom's side is the reason why you believe in psychics, like.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom's been very like new age spiritual since I was probably 9 or 10.
So for you, the fact that there's a psychic or there's energy or chakras or stuff like that, you grew up with it.
I grew up with it in some way. I thought that I thought my mom was a freak when I was a kid. I mean, her and my stepfather would be having drum circles in the living room.
Oh, that kind of parents.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
They had, I'll always remember this. I remember this was in an essay I wrote sometime, but my stepfather was moving into our house and he had this giant painting of a polar bear and he hung it up on the wall, and my mom goes, "That's Sheldon's spirit animal." And I was like, "Fuck you. Get me out of here. This is not my family."
They're nuts.
Yeah.
I am out. I am done with the polar bear.
I was just like, okay, see ya. That's about the time I moved to my dad's. Because at least like it's like my dad was so material world. But like I understood it.
Yeah.
Like it was like, okay, cool, we got a nice car. We got a ski condo. Exactly. Like I get it. Yeah. It's these things are great. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, but my dad was a little crazy with the material stuff. Like he was known for like driving home in a new car different from the one that he left in the morning. Which is comical because I've owned so many cars. Yeah. Since you've known me in 4 years, how many cars have I had? 6? I don't know. 5?
Yeah. Well, there's also the fact that your car broke down and they had a different car back then. It was just like so many. Yeah. But I also seen you heal that relationship with needing stuff as well. Definitely. I also seen you be like, do I really need this? Like, where is it coming from? And like doing the inside work for it. Yeah. Which I think it's really awesome because I think that I've been kind of on the same path as well. Where it's just like, is this really something that I want? Do I need it? Is this because of status or something like that? And there's not that many people that on your surroundings that can actually mirror that for you as well.
That's true.
In a healthy way.
That's very true.
Because there's either the people that have so much access to money that it's just like, it's just one thing. Or there's, for me, sometimes the opposite, but there's the lack thereof. So having that means like the world and it will solve all your problems. And then there's kind of like a balance of it's like, okay, it's not all so bad, it's not all so good, but it's just like finding your own way of actually materializing what is important for you.
Definitely. It's different for everyone.
It's so different for everyone.
Yeah.
But still, which is something that I was talking to in a couple episodes ago. It was like, I love how I find, connections with people that we have so many different backgrounds and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we have the same trauma. Yeah. Let's work with it. Totally. And like completely different stories with your family, completely different stories with growing up, different languages even for you and I. Yeah. That you're like, I felt the same thing with, my parents or the way that you felt included or rejected. I just think is amazing. What do you think your writing comes to all of this? I mean, I know that your writing was part of your previous career. That was a very long pause, sorry.
Career.
Career.
What is a career? Anyway?
What is a career nowadays? I mean, also in California, where it's like...
I'm telling you, there are more people surfing at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday than, it's crazy. I don't think anyone has a real job in LA. A few people do.
The old definition of real job, right?
Yeah, right.
But So 11, really? Sorry, I'm going to divert here.
I
11
mean, I'm just
a.m.
always
morning?
amazed. I think ever since COVID, like people just didn't stop going to the beach. Like they still
Yeah.
keep the same hours as.
I mean, it was the best place to go during
Yeah.
COVID because
Yeah.
nobody was going to tell you couldn't at the same time.
Yeah.
It was. I think I was at the beach more during COVID than I am now
Yeah.
because it just was so much easier and better and
Had to
not
get
chaotic
outside.
and get outside, of
Yeah.
course. And also California, but. Original question, going back, I'm reeling myself
Yes.
back.
I remember it was a
back
good one.
Your writing.
Writing.
How does your writing, it was your job, let's say, or I don't know if you had a personal relationship with writing that kind of, how did it translate it to this new way of being in coaching and what's your new endeavors or your new projects?
Well, for me, writing was always the way that I could really express myself, even as a kid, because I was a really shy, really withdrawn kid.
Okay.
I'm like pretty animated now,
Yeah.
and but you know that I'm
But-
introverted.
Yes.
I was 100 times more introverted as a kid. I did not speak a lot of the time.
Okay.
I was always an observer, and I think writing is great for the observer. You
Yeah.
have to be a keen observer to be a good writer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was just the way I remember as early as first, second grade, like writing stuff and being like, oh, this is the way that I talk,
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is like, I don't tell the story very often, but like the story of how I even got a job as a professional writer is I think pretty nuts. Like, I mean, I got back from rehab. I was 26.
Okay.
I had never been paid to write.
Okay.
And basically within like a year and a half, I was working at like one of the top magazines in the world as a writer. So
and also, like somebody who's listening to you for the first time is like, rehab, go back to the rehab part.
yeah,
Like,
totally. Okay.
Finish that story. No, finish the
Well,
story.
I told you I got into drugs in college.
Yes.
So when I was in the fraternity, I got into cocaine big time. I used to sell it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about
I used
the
to sell it
Julian
to my
part.
friends.
Okay.
My friend and I, I won't use his name. My friend and I would make trips to Syracuse, New York, to a pizza place in a strip mall, where a gentleman would come in and pass us a large amount of cocaine underneath the table while we had a slice of pizza.
And you were how old?
I was 20, 21.
Yeah, the healthy height. Okay.
Yeah, my friend, my best friend in college, and I were, we were like, we just did it because we thought it would be cool and like get us girls and stuff, because like if you have the drugs, you become popular at like 2 a.m.
To it. Thank you for pointing that out. You're not popular at 9 p.m. You're popular at 2
You're way more popular at 2 a.m.
Yes. I love that.
He had a great off-campus apartment, and it was it was beautifully furnished, and we would hang out there and drink a lot of vodka and do a lot of drugs. But
Okay.
But yeah, so I got into drugs in college, and when my dad died, it really, I was already well on my way to being a drug addict, but when my dad died, I remember the switch in my head.
Okay.
It was like, it went from, oh, this is fun, this is great, I'm loving this is like, it's about being social, it's about getting to express myself more fully when I'm wasted, which I didn't feel like I could do in my life to that point.
Yeah.
But my dad died, and I remember that switch to like, I'm seeking oblivion.
Yeah, I don't want to feel shit.
Dark.
Yeah.
It went dark.
Okay.
And so I had 4 very dark years after my dad died, 22 to 26.
Okay.
Doing a lot of drugs, like, well on my way to like, like alcoholism.
Yeah.
And just whatever. Drinking that way. And at 26 I ended up in rehab for that reason. I sent myself.
Wow.
I was dating someone that I no longer wanted to be dating.
Okay.
I was in a job that I hated. I was wearing a suit to work, working in a cubicle, doing commercial real estate.
Ooh.
It was so far again. It's like that classic example of like it being so far away from the alignment with who you really are at your core.
Yeah.
That rehab was a really good experience for me.
Wow.
Because I was completely thrust out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I went to this really fancy rehab on an island in Antigua, the island of Antigua.
Oh, you went like celebrity status.
It was Eric Clapton's rehab center.
Oh.
Yeah.
That would make so much sense that you would go to Eric Clapton's rehab center.
It's great.
No, it's
yeah,
so
it's on brand.
But it's also like the artist in you.
Yeah, totally.
It was like, let's make this very dramatic.
Yeah, there were guitars on the wall and shit. Apparently, I just missed someone
Very big.
Yeah, very big.
Okay.
Just missed him.
Everybody Google.
Yeah. I don't know if
Clapton's
anyone knows
rehab.
that he's gone there, so I'm not gonna say it. But,
no.
So my time there was really valuable. It was
Wow.
It was the first time I had.
How long was rehab?
It was 30 days.
Okay.
It was the first time I had ever looked inward.
Wow.
First time.
And you were 26.
Had never journaled. Had never done anything.
Wow.
As far as like mining my insides prior to that. I was 26. It was over my birthday, actually. My 26th birthday, I was there. Wow. They made me a cake.
Wow. In Antigua.
Yeah. On the veranda. Windswept, palms. It was beautiful. Rehab was like exhilarating for me.
Wow.
I could not believe, I was so captivated by, that was actually the first time I ever got captivated by like the truth.
Wow.
You know, like I'm sitting in these circles of people,
yes,
and I just got high on the truth.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'm like, oh my God, this is
Yep.
incredible. I come from this world where nobody tells the truth.
Uh-huh.
It's all a fucking lie.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, I'm doing great. They're not doing great.
Yeah, everybody has
At rehab, it's like, I'm fucked up. You know? Like,
and there's more people that are like, it's okay. We're here too.
It was beautiful for me.
Yeah,
it was this like deep soul shot that I got at rehab where I was like, oh, this is the direction you need to be going in.
Got it.
Let's go towards this direction.
Yeah.
And I met all these great people.
Of
freaks.
Course.
Awesome.
Are you still in
people.
contact with anybody?
I'm not in contact with anyone, but I was for years afterwards. My two buddies there.
Yeah.
We just walk around the island and smoke cigarettes and just talk and like.
Given that we can do cocaine, let's smoke cigarettes.
Yeah. I was thinking about one of him the other day. I was thinking about one of those guys the other day because I wrote a piece and I told a story that he told us.
Wow.
Because apparently when he got to rehab, he got off the plane and he saw the shuttle driver like waiting to take him to rehab, and he goes, fuck this. And he ran as fast as he could to a bar and he just drank as much as he could and bought some meth and like did this whole thing. And he had this final last stand.
No.
Yeah, and the guy finally like, and I guess the van driver was like, yeah, we've seen this one before. People do that.
We know.
Yeah.
I love like the bar owner probably is like, you gotta lose one right here.
Yeah, exactly. This Canadian guy here, like, I don't know where he came from. He's very pale and he's like very fucked up.
It's like, I think it's time, guys. Wow, that's a lot. So you get out of rehab, you go back to New York at this time?
Yep.
And then writing just kind of became the thing, like where you kept journaling and that's how you knew that you wanted to do it for
No, I started a blog.
Okay.
Actually, before I went to rehab, I started this blog, but I really started hitting it much more in earnest when I got back.
Okay.
But the blog was a idea of a friend of mine from home. I knew I wanted to write, but I didn't know what like my blog would be, right? And I was a big golfer growing up.
Yeah.
And now I'm back into golf, which is so wonderful. But I liked clothes.
Okay.
And I liked golf. So I wrote about golf clothes on my blog.
Okay.
And because there was no other blog writing about golf and fashion together, really.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think there was really anything at the time. It's funny now because I don't know if you know this, but golf is really cool right now.
I mean, I always, my brothers and my dad play golf, so I've always been surrounded by golf, so
yeah.
I don't know a world where golf is not involved somehow.
Okay. I just mean like in like the mainstream sort of like cool and like zeitgeist, golf is really popular right now. Is
that why places like Top Golf exist now, maybe?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot bigger since the pandemic. But it's like there's like really cool like for instance when I was writing about golf fashion, there were only like a couple brands that you could even really write about in earnest. Now there's like so many, and the golf clothes are actually really cool.
Okay,
like,
so it's basically what polo did with tennis in a way. If you think about it,
I mean, it was very down that lane. It was very like, I mean, if you look at my background, right, it's like I grew up golfing at a country club, because of my stepmother, right? So it's like I had that. I had been in a fraternity. There was definitely like I had a preppier sort of spin, but I also lived in downtown New York.
Okay.
So like there was kind of like a there was a lot of influences happening there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started this golf blog.
Okay.
And the golf blog I because no one else was writing about golf fashion, Polo actually, Ralph Lauren, like one of the guys from the PR team messaged me and said, "Hey, will you come like review our collection?" And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like, I had just gotten back from rehab. I was like, "I gotta find some clothes like show up to this
You
fucking
became
thing."
Diana Winter of golf clothes.
So they had me down to the showroom at Madison Avenue. And I went in and saw the golf collection. And while I was in there, I met this guy, Charlie.
Okay.
And hit it off with him. He was like a few years older than me. He had been working there for a while. He was like really handsome, really like cool guy.
Yeah.
And we like walked around the block and smoked a cigarette. And he offered me a job.
You know what? I always been envious of people who smoke because all those opportunities happen when people are having a fucking cigarette break.
It's true.
I am so sorry, I guess,
Yeah.
because I didn't know there was a trigger. But I always said, because I only,
it's a private time.
It's such a private time for connecting with people. And I have to say I'm guilty of actually, like, hitting on guys because I asked them for a cigarette. Or, like, it's just the easiest thing on earth. Yeah. And I don't necessarily smoke. I'm also not necessarily have, like, that addict gene, I feel. Mm-hmm. But I will usually have a cigarette after a couple drinks. Yeah. After a couple drinks, and I'm like, somebody's having a cigarette, I'll have a cigarette.
It's a pretty good cigarette after a couple drinks.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But it's also... but I will never buy, like, a box of cigarettes myself, you know, or something like that. But when I don't, which is, like, during the regular day, I don't feel the urge of like, oh, let me have a cigarette in the middle of the day. Sure. But I hated it because like even for people that used to work for me, they're like, can I just take a 5-minute cigarette break? And I'm like, can I take a 5-minute cigarette break but not smoke? Like, what the fuck? Yeah. But there's so much, I feel like there's so many opportunities that happen over just like when people go golfing together. Definitely. You know? But it's like, oh yeah, I had a cigarette break and so-and-so offered me a job. Like, it's not the first time I hear it.
It's an icebreaker. I mean, they used to tell spies, they always have a pack of cigarettes. Because they'd get a moment of someone's time and someone becomes vulnerable.
That's so true.
And in college, I knew guys who only bought cigarettes just for the girls.
Of course.
Yeah. Like, I know that. At a party, you want to have a cigarette?
Well, no, right? I met all of them. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I met all of them. And totally. I met all of them. No, but also, like, I also judge depending on what kind of cigarettes you would have also.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a whole different thing. Yeah, are you more of a Marlboro guy or more like a Parliament Light guy?
Exactly. Right. It'd be like, ooh, that's too strong. What other things do you do that you wanted to have a red Marlboro or something like that? I
don't know if you know this, but Parliament Lights have a recessed filter. Okay. Which means that the filter is lower than the lip of the cigarette. Yeah. Which means that was the cocaine cigarette because you could actually put coke in it and hit it out of there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we used to smoke Parliament Lights in college.
Got it, because it was accessible to do cocaine. Yep. I've learned so much.
I did not know I was going to come on your podcast and talk about cocaine, but here I am. I am an expert on cocaine. You grew up in Miami?
But that's the thing. We talk about this all the time because the catchphrase that you have. There's many phrases that you've given me, but you always say you're too vanilla to grow up in Miami when it comes to drugs. Yeah. But the thing is that I saw it happening, but for me, I think it's also a cultural thing. Mm. It was the alcohol. Like for me, if I was gonna concentrate on anything or have anything, it will be the alcohol. Sure. And how tough of a person you are in accordance to how much you can tolerate the alcohol. Mm. So I always knew how to tolerate my alcohol, like a lot. That I was always very proud of the fact that I was the one that was putting people to sleep.
Yeah, I can drink whiskey with it.
I'm like, honey, that's nothing. Yeah. And then, thankfully, by the time I was 29, I had a surgery in my stomach that like lowered 100% like my tolerance to alcohol.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
One of the biggest things about that surgery is the fact that the tolerance to alcohol went down. So before I would drink like 5 whiskeys on the rocks, it would take me 1 to be like, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, change of lifestyle. And then that's when all of a sudden I was like, okay, but hold on, what other things do alcohol do? So kind of putting aside all of the backstories of like partying and all that kind of stuff, what's in the future for you? Like what's after you started doing this and you're coaching and you're writing, what's forward? What what's this new spiritual, because I also seen you kind of, I feel like I've been on and off to hold space for you in order to like kind of go into a fist fight with yourself. I think we've done that with each other. But I also see there's a new face that we kind of talking about it off the mic before we started recording. There's like a new thing of like Sean emerging and combining maybe the healthy, sociable Sean that kind of you were in the past with all this knowledge that you have of spirituality and like self-reflection. And what's next for you?
You know, I definitely see like I feel so much, because we've been talking about this era of like getting fucked up and having that feel liberating, right? Like to me that felt liberating. What I'm having is like, you know, the experience of now like feeling like equally as liberated, but just
without the drugs,
without any additives, like not having to ingest anything to feel that way. So I think like on that, you know, sort of like with myself, I'm just feeling freer and freer. You know, we worked together for 3 years on shedding a lot of different layers of stuff, a lot of misbeliefs, a lot of limiting ideas about how we have to be in the world, how we have to be to get love, etc. So like it's like I just feel at this point I feel freer and freer, and how that translates into coaching for me is like that just allows me to help people get freer and freer. You know? I mean, as you know, it's like as a coach, we're a few steps ahead with the machete, hacking the way, right? Like, we are. And if you and to continue being an amazing coach, you just have to continue keep hacking, right? So it's like, and I love that. Like I'm like, throw the packs on me, you know? Like I'm always down to be the first one to jump out of the plane. You know, like I've always been someone who's been so driven by having the experience of something. I've said this before, I don't want it to come off as sort of like crass, but like I'm not super interested in what your experience was having an experience. I want to have the experience. Then we could talk about it afterwards. And I'd love to hear about what your experience was. But I've never been someone that I don't try to live vicariously through other people. Got it. I want to go have the experience. Like I don't want to know what it was like for you to take ayahuasca. I want to drink the ayahuasca, you know? Like I don't like I want to go have that crazy, you know, therapy group experience, or I want to go on the retreat and learn this, or I want to have the thrill of trying this thing. I mean, I literally am I'm very driven by that.
Nice. What do you think now that I'm just taken aback about like the 2 years but 2 years specifically because of USM. What do you think has been one of your biggest learnings when it came to your journey?
Through USM? I think through USM the biggest gift that I got was the repairing my relationship with myself. Got it. Just the little things, the self-compassion, you know, turning towards myself with the forgiveness. I mean, we've touched on a little bit of like my life. Like there was a lot of things that I could have like held over my head for the rest of my life. Big time. You know, and other things that people from my family and stuff did. You know, to me or did, and therefore I was hurt. You know. So I mean, the forgiveness element, the compassion element, because I mean, as you know, it's all about our relationship with ourselves. That's the only thing. That's it. That's the only thing you can count on. It's the only thing you can count on, and it's the key to every other relationship working. Like the kinder that we get towards ourselves, naturally we're gonna get kinder towards others.
I mean, that's a topic I want to get into if you're down. But I think one of the things that I think now in this era that we talked about a lot is about how those relationships with ourselves shape the romantic relationships that we want to have in the future. Definitely. And I think that in USM, through going to that inner work and like kind of closing ourselves to the world for a little bit, to work on ourselves. And now that we're kind of ready, we see more and more how those things that we worked on back then really shape the way that we see the future with our relationships. What do you think has been right now the thing that you're working on when it comes to that romantic relationships?
I think what is the big thing that I'm working on right now when it comes to like how I would like to come into my next relationship.
Yeah, because something with yourself changed.
It's a lot around like power. Like me being in my power as a man.
Okay.
Because I was someone who every woman I've ever dated long term was like a woman who had some power.
Okay.
She was someone that I saw in the world and said like she's got something.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is actually the topic that I wanted to talk with you about, like that feminine, masculine energy thing and stuff. Please keep going.
So I tended to, again, if you go back to sort of the template that was set for me, right? My father married a powerful woman.
Yes.
And that's what I saw.
Okay.
And our life got better.
Yeah.
Look, my dad married my stepmother, and now we're in France.
That's good in my book.
Yeah, totally. So that was my template, and I'm a big believer that we will recreate what we know until we heal what we need to heal.
I agree.
We will just make it again and again and again and again.
Yes.
So what I did again and again and again and again is I chose my stepmother. I chose a woman who had, power, prestige, beauty, something that was like, I saw as like kind of put her on a pedestal.
Got it.
So where I'm going with this is that was disempowering for me because I was lowering myself.
Got it.
By putting her on a pedestal, by nature, I'm down here. And I'm like, oh my God, you're amazing. I can't believe you like me.
Yeah.
And that's what I did with everyone. So the work for me has been this work. Topple the pedestal, first of all.
Okay.
And I think that's sort of the mother wound work. Topple the pedestal. Look at what was really going on in my dynamics with my mother and my stepmother. Because that's huge for us in the romantic relationship. Well, I'm a heterosexual man. So, that's big for me. I got to look at the mother.
Yep.
And bringing myself up so that because what I felt like I always did was kind of like try to like find someone who like had a life that I just wanted to move into. Because again, that's what I saw.
Got it.
We've just moved into my stepmother's life.
Got it.
So it's important for me. The empowerment piece for me is to create the like kick-ass life that is so true to me and is so me that it's like when I meet someone, it's like there's none of that.
Got it.
I'm not trying to move into your life. I love my life. I just want you to have a life that you like too, and then we can make a life together.
Got it.
That's the big thing for me right now.
Nice.
Like nice. I'm really working on being alone and like just fucking thriving alone.
Yeah. Yeah, giving it to yourself, not waiting for somebody else to give it to you.
It's huge for me.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me the depths that this went to inside of me.
Nice.
Those were like crazy hooks.
Yeah. No, and I would have to say for me is very similar on the male perspective.
Yeah.
On the emotional male perspective to be complete, like it's also there. But it's funny because I don't know if you remember, but I think it was year 1 or year 2, they asked us to write a little thing and put a picture for Ron and Mary, for our USM teachers. Yeah. And one of the things I wrote, there's a poem that I love and it's called You Learn. And one of the things that the poem says is like, you don't wait for people to bring you around flowers. You actually learn how to plant your own garden.
Exactly.
And that metaphor. Exactly. And that for me was so important to understand that in a way there was also, because there's also this like feminine view of you're going to be rescued, and they're going to come and get you, or they're going to solve all your problems, and this person is going to be everything for you, right? Like
complete me.
Right. You have to complete me. And also, as my mom would say, my mom is like, you have to understand, they taught me how to be a wife, not how to be a woman. Like I grew, she's like, my mom would say that, she's like, I grew up with the belief that the ultimate thing in my life was to be a wife.
Wow.
So it's like, so my mom, she's like, I didn't learn, and then afterwards I became a mom. So it's like, I've learned about myself throughout this whole journey, but that wasn't the goal at the beginning of it. So obviously for me it's like, so I'm supposed to find this person, but I also have to become a mom, but forget about like all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I really wanted to talk to you about this because there's also the belief that there's kind of a competition, I would say, in both of our earlier wins of relating to the opposite sex. It's almost like you're better than me, so I have to serve you in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always somebody who's better than the other in a way. And I feel that there's a lot of resentment because for me, it shows up a lot into I intimidate guys sometimes. And then in my old way of thinking, I would be like, oh, how can I not intimidate you? How can I lower myself? How can I dim my light in order for you to be attracted to me? Totally. So let me accept that cigarette, although I don't want to smoke, you know, like, or whatever it is.
I get that.
So like I find it interesting because the more I know different guys and talked about in a very vulnerable and honest way, I find a lot of men who have been, I'm going to use this phrase, like their balls get cut off by women because we want to be the guys.
Definitely.
And I feel that in a way I also had that. I also wanted to be the toxic man in the relationship almost because that was kind of the thing that I knew how to be. It's
also safer. It's not very vulnerable. I think that this is...
That's it. That's my trigger.
Well, I think it's... I love this conversation. I think it's really interesting with the polarity stuff. Yeah. What's happening because, you know, with women coming out and really flexing their masculine in today's world. Yeah. Like women are, you know, I mean, we're all doing the same things essentially, right? So we're all, and in our culture, in this culture, in America, it's like it's so driven by success, and you know, so it's like we're all it's
very male energy still.
I mean, I think most women today, right, are like the last thing that a lot of women would want, especially in major cities, and it would be to say like my top goal is to be a wife. Fuck that. I want to cry. I mean, actually, I don't know. In LA, maybe, depending on where we are, we're kind of close to Beverly Hills. But I think it's interesting because what that's doing is that's creating some interesting dynamics at home.
Yes.
Because there's too much masculine.
Exactly.
Yeah. And actually, I think to your point, to about guys getting castrated, because that was my past. Because remember, I was always choosing the woman who was like, she had it going on. Like she had like, you know, was it. She was like, you know, killing it in her career, or she was, you know, doing something that was powerful and kind of out there, and it was like flexing a lot of masculine energy.
Got it.
So like I was, because of my relationship with my dad, I was very averse to the masculine. I was probably more in my I would say I was more in my wounded masculine than in my feminine. But the wounded masculine is a passive man.
Got it.
Because he's I mean, I can speak from this, is like I was afraid to be too much for my mother. Yeah. Because my mom had such a toxic dad, or had such a I don't like the word toxic. Had such an aggressive, violent dad. So she was terrified of that energy.
Wow.
So for me it was like anger was off
frustration, like you couldn't feel anything that, but
I was a good boy. Yeah. You know? Just like trying to please mom and trying to please my stepmother too, and like, where's my dad? He's not showing me how to do anything.
Would sadness also go into that category?
Would what?
Sadness. So there was no anger, no frustration, sadness, any of that.
I just didn't complain.
Yeah.
It was just stayed silent.
100% me.
Yeah. If you can't say something nice, don't say something at all, right?
That's it. You know?
Terrible advice.
Horrible. It's funny because when I did the first time I had a podcast, it was with Andrea, and one of the things that we used to do is like, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it at all. But if you have something good to say, fucking say it. Yeah. You know, also give a compliment. But I understand, because in a way, tell me if I'm seeing this correctly. In a way, going for that person that was powerful, that powerful woman, it wasn't necessarily anything wrong with her, although I'm pretty sure they had something, but it was more of like you thinking that was going to compliment and like, you know, take you to another level or something like that.
Well, I wanted them to take care of me. What did I see? Got it. I saw my dad getting taken care of by a rich lady.
Got it.
I wanted him to take care of me.
Okay.
Literally, like the young woman that I was dating at the time my dad died was my stepmother.
Wow.
I mean, again,
we
will recreate what we saw until we heal.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
You don't have to go far to like see that. It can be, it's that literal for most people.
No, and it's interesting because from my point of view, and I think I shared this with you the other day, I always thought into healing this way of having a new relationship and attracting that person for myself. There was a skewed view that I had about it, which was I have to be in my feminine, period. You know, like I have to be on the receiving end. They have to take care of things. They have to, in a way, like take care of you, and you just kind of like learn to receive. Don't be in your masculine, be in your feminine to receive, right? Sure. And there was an experience that I had not too long ago, and it was someone that feels very comfortable when I'm in my power and when I'm in my, for say, divine masculine, per se. And it was in a way that wasn't intimidated by it. He was just like really chill in the fact that I took over. However, there was also the part that he could read me in a way that he could intersect, and I will go to my feminine, he will go to his masculine.
I see.
You know?
Well, I think it is. Like, I mean, at the best, it's a dance.
It's a dance.
It's not like we're just hanging out in one all the time.
100%.
No, it's a dance.
And that's where I was like, oh my God, no, I want to be able to find someone that you can dance with. I mean, if I could, that's also great. But it's like, it's such a dance. It's so, like, I think that for a very long time, I thought of myself that you have to be in one or the other.
Totally.
Where now is just like, well, hold up. I actually really like my masculine. I think I've developed it in a way that has been non-toxic, you know, and I also developed my feminine in a way that is so much more easier to be vulnerable, you know, and like understanding that that's also like I can actually feel again.
Yeah. Totally.
But I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because I feel like that's something that I get a lot with my clients, with my friends. Yeah. There's a lot of topics going on around that, because there's also has nothing to do with the fact of orientation or biology in a way. Yeah. It really truly has to do with how you manage your energy into relating with other people. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And one thing that I see with coaching men is there's a huge epidemic in men with all the unhealed stuff that exists in men, that not there's no feeling. Yeah. So that, like, I mean, I think that this is a big result. This is a big cause for, you know, the divorce rates being as high as they are. This is a big cause for a lot of things that I actually think I would say most men probably end up in therapy. I don't know about coaching. I can't say about that, but therapy and therapeutic settings, because their partner is like, you gotta fucking do something. Yeah. Like, either something tanked in the relationship, there was an affair, there on either side. Yeah. There was, you know, whatever. It was somebody caught somebody with porn, like whatever. There was something like that happened, or it's just like, listen, like, I need you to be able to feel me more. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Because most guys, we're in our head. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. We live like floating heads. Yeah. The only time we're in our body is like when we're having sex. Got it. Or like maybe when we're at the gym or something.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
But but other than that, it's purely mental. Yeah. And so the healing that really has, the big one is that because again, unless a woman feels a man in a healthy masculine place, she will not relax. She will not relax into that feminine space, and there's no polarity. And polarity is sex, fireworks, sparks, everything that you want past, like, when you're in a longer term relationship past the honeymoon phase. Like, to keep that polarity alive, like, talk about that's the work for a lot of for most people. No, and to keep it exciting. Yeah.
No, I'm having like 3 thoughts at a time. I'm having the thought of a lot of people that I know that would totally listen to this episode will be like having breakthroughs and epiphanies because of the conversation that we're having, which is the goal of why I did this. Because I feel there's a lot of men and women that are part of my life, that support me, that believe in this kind of stuff, that I think it's great to hear it from a point of view of somebody who knows this, that you're in it, that you're working in it. And the other thing that I'm thinking is just like, personally, on my story, the reason why I became the toxic man is because I couldn't find a safe place to be with someone.
Absolutely. You didn't have a place to relax and
No.
and go into your feelings.
So I had to like do, you know,
Of course.
like I had to execute, I had to do and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't feel like it was like a safe place to actually feel and be vulnerable because I didn't have the space.
Totally.
I could find it in many, I mean, women, I think women, and there's one thing that I wish for men more, and that's why I love that you have like support groups and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think women, it's easier for us to have support groups and like women's circles and all that. I think that women are super powerful when it came to like doing that. Even my mom used to have like circles and prayer groups, but they were very inclusive.
Cool.
But I think men really like that because at the same time, I have so many men that I love in my life, and I hope you can get the hint, that will be like, I'm not about feelings.
Of course.
You know, like, this is not my thing. And I'm like,
totally.
You weren't taught that wasn't the thing, but everybody has it.
Yeah. I mean, as a coach, as a coach in the men's space, I mean, I see this all the time. And this was me as well. It's like the two things that I hear the most are like, I'm not opening up that because I don't know what the fuck is in there, and I don't want to get overtaken by what's going on
that emotion
in there.
of whatever.
And the other one is like, I'll lose my edge at work, or I'll lose my edge in the world. I don't want to get soft, you know, which is ironic because a lot of those guys are actually passive.
Yes.
But to admit that would be to then go over here and actually have to, you know. So there's a lot. There's definitely a lot working against men. There's a lot of good stuff happening in the men's space right now.
Yes.
I will say that. There is more than there's ever been. And there's something for every flavor. There's, you know, the guys who go to the retreat and actually fight each other.
Yes, I've seen those.
Sounds kind of cool. And then there are like, you know, the more like new agey stuff, stuff with a spiritual bent, religious stuff like you said. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of like quality religious groups for people that are, you know, in a church to do men's work. I don't know. I mean, I assume there is.
I mean, I've witnessed some, and then obviously I witnessed some that are not.
I'm sure there's some terrible ones, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and terrible, I just mean ineffective.
Yeah, no, but I also think that I have like so many questions for you that I think will benefit so many people that are listening, which is like, when the person, because I think this happens to anybody who dives into the coaching world, when they come up and they're like, okay, there's a Pandora's box and I don't want to open it because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all these feelings and all these things. And I think I'm going to, because also we have to understand that neurobiologically, the emotional pain also triggers the same part of our body that the physical pain gets triggered, right?
Sure.
So I'm guessing that also for men, it's like, what the fuck, I'm not going to feel the physical pain either. Women, I guess we're more used to it because obviously the whole thing about a period. What do you say when they kind of tell you that? Or what do you suggest? Or is it part of just the journey?
I think it's part of the journey. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say anything per se. I mean, I think it's a lived experience that one needs to have. I think like, but put it this way, like if I have clients and they haven't really like had the experience of like a lot. One thing I'll see a lot is like a man hasn't cried in like 9-10 years. You know, like which like that now when I hear that, it's like that like hits so deep for me because that was definitely me. Yeah. And now like I mean I cry all the fucking time. I love it. It's such a catharsis.
Oh, it's so good. I'm still learning.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, so I guess to me it's part of the journey. But a lot of things that I'll see is like. Or one thing that I'll see is like when men do have an experience of having something clear like that, they're like, oh, cool, okay, I survived. Yeah, I survived, and I actually felt kind of good. Yeah, I got something out. It felt good, and also in men's groups, you know, once we start kind of talking about like it's so funny because you walking off the street and like guys will be talking about like sort of having a release like that being a good thing, and a new guy to the group is gonna be like, why is that good? I've been trying.
Why do you
Because
want to
again,
do
think
that?
of the programming. The programming on
Yeah.
guys from the time we're boys is like, don't cry.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
no, and anger too is a big one. Like
Yeah.
don't ever be out of control.
Yes.
And anger, when rage, when you're like doing
Yep.
childhood rage work,
Yes.
that is as out of control as it gets.
Yeah.
It's like a kid having a tantrum.
Yeah.
You know, you just gotta scream.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of men that I know, and I would have put myself in this camp too, would have been like, if they saw somebody get like that, they would have been like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not cool. That's not cool.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
and I so relate to that one because it's just but there was also a feeling that if you get angry and rattled up, then that anger is gonna stay longer. You know, like
Yes.
And
That's
it-
a big misconception.
and it's a huge misconception because
Yeah.
actually it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Is the moment that you get into the anger, then it actually is released.
The way we hold on to it is by not expressing it.
Correct.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But and I think that's when I started doing like kind of all the work about like my child and the
Yeah.
anger and all that. It was like, oh, but it's done. It's
Yeah.
over. It's good. Like sometimes I witness myself when I'm like journaling or there's something that needs to come out. I will like sit down and write it down and really be there with my feelings or cry or just like or you know the usual beating the pillow or something like that. And then afterwards, I'm good, you know, and I keep going. I make dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I always think of it, if somebody will be recording this, they will
Yes.
think that I'm not.
I mean, it looks like someone who is just sort of insane, right?
Exactly, because you're, like, having a
are making
cathartic
soup,
moment.
and then you just go pound the shit out of the wall or the bed, and then you go back and,
And then you
finish
go
the
back to
soup.
your life.
Believe me, this is one of the things that I find the funniest about this type of work.
It's
because
so funny.
if you were filming someone, they would look like a totally crazy
Yes.
person. We are crazy.
We're
all
crazy. But I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, totally. I would say too that, but there is one caveat. I think that is a truth maybe that needs to be sort of said about that is like when you do first open up, when you do get a little cracked open.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that you express a little bit and then it's like done.
No.
Like
Oh.
like it's actually like I remember very well like when I had started this really transformative like
Okay.
group therapy that I did for 3 years in New York. I remember like when I got cracked open, like I'd be like walking down the sidewalk in the middle of the day and would start crying.
Wow.
Like I was cracked the fuck open.
Yeah.
And all that shit was coming up whether I was ready for it or not.
Oh,
You know?
100%.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why the pineapple moment became so important
Yeah.
for me. Because it was
Yeah.
like, what? And also by then, the pandemic just started. So
Yeah.
I'm by myself in my house. I'm
Right.
not supposed to leave. Like,
Right.
what the fuck? Like, this is too much. Why am I having all this
The
moments?
padded room.
It was just like, I'm going
I felt the same way.
insane.
I really did.
It's just too much. I'm so glad we talked about this because
Mm.
I think that it's something that it's so normal, and I think the
It is
more
normal.
the-
We have to normalize it.
we have to normalize it. And I hope that by talking about this
Mm-hmm.
in something like in a public platform, kind of gives some sense of relief to somebody that understands that this is completely normal, that we're
Yeah.
still figuring it out, that we're not in a competition with anybody else.
Mm.
We're actually here to like, hey, this is happening within me. What do you think?
Totally.
And understand that sometimes we're people's triggers, but they're not my responsibility either.
Mm.
And I just went in a TED Talk for a second. Sorry.
That was great.
Thank you.
My friend and I were on a hike yesterday morning, and
Mm-hmm.
he was saying that he had this was years ago, but it had like an acid trip that was really powerful for him.
Okay.
And he said that it really hit him on that trip that like he really felt and understood that we're all here together doing this dance and like using each other for our own growth.
100%.
Right? And he
I
really
believe
felt that, and he really also felt, this is the part that I thought was powerful, is he said like all we can do is let that go too.
Yes.
Because it's not like that's what everyone's doing. So like
We're all in it.
so when we carry these things and don't
Yeah.
forgive ourselves and say like, how could I have ever treated my ex like that? One of my buddies had this experience, which I've had many times before because I had many apologies to make to people and amends. But one of my buddies had this experience recently where he had an ex get in touch with him, and during their correspondence, which was brief, she said something that he never expected, which is she was like, because he kind of led it with like, hey, I've been reflecting a little bit, and like I would have liked to show up the relationship a little bit different, as we often would, right? So and then
thank you for doing that. By the way, a lot of the times we're like, I didn't know I needed that apology.
Right.
10 years later.
Yeah.
And it actually really helps.
It can be really cathartic, and it's often, I think, at a really impactful time. The timing of it will be really impactful, right? And that's how it was for this guy. But anyway, I'm saying they traded these truths that they'd never swapped before.
Okay.
And they were able to just have this whole new level of like letting go, which comes back to it again. It's like that is happening for everyone. Wow. This is what we are doing.
Yeah.
Like, so to hold on to it is just to hold on to something that we got to let go of it.
Yeah.
And this has been a huge one for me because I was raised with the guilt.
Oh.
And my grandmother was the queen of guilt.
Oh, preach.
Yeah, I know you know. You're a Catholic too, so like that's a whole different animal.
It was like double. It's funny because there was some I don't know who I was talking to the other day. Is like, you don't understand. I'm Jewish, and I'm like, oh honey, it doesn't matter the religion.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, at this point.
Ooh, yeah, but the Jews they do get to do
they do. The Jew guilt is strong.
It's strong.
I mean, the Catholic Christian one, don't get me wrong, but it's like that one is also very, very strong.
It's very strong.
But yeah.
But I was just gonna say, just to like, I thought that was a cool story because it hammered home for me something that I think about a lot, which is like, dude, you just gotta let go.
Yeah.
You're gonna hurt people.
Yeah.
They're gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
We're gonna fucking hurt each other.
It's gonna happen.
That's actually what we're here to do. We're working shit out.
Yeah.
We're here to hurt each other.
Yeah.
We're here to hurt each other so that we can heal.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think it just makes, the whole thing that when your heart breaks, it only grows bigger.
Yes!
I wholeheartedly believe
you
that.
break open until you're just like fucking
much.
love is pouring in, right?
And it's what I love about it is I think you and I have this really awesome relationship where it's like we're so much in the loving that you can get mad at me if you want, you can do all that, but the love is so much bigger.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that you can do almost, Yeah. It's just, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be present because there is so much of a responsibility into each other's side that it's just like, I allowed you to be and it's okay. And you're going to be in a moment and we're here for that. And we're just going to keep growing in a way.
Totally.
And also understanding which relationships are there for you that way.
Yeah, that's been a big learning experience for me.
Yeah.
I one of the most painful things for me in my life was this story that I was showing up to things and people weren't meeting me. Mm-hmm. Like loyalty has been a big like feeling like people weren't loyal to me was like a big story throughout my youth. Wow. And it just and since it was in me, it just kept attracting people that would not be loyal to me.
Got it.
And I wasn't being loyal to myself, of course, that's the punchline, right? But it's like now I've noticed, to your point, it's like those relationships that feel like that to me, that's the healing balm. That's the healing balm, because I'm like, it happened with one of my friends the other day. Yeah. It was like he got pissed at me for something. I picked him up. I didn't even know I said anything. And he was like, that really pissed me off when you said that earlier. And for a second, I kind of went to that place, like the shame guilt place. Yeah. But then he like smiled and like was like, yeah, I got that story. Because it's like people can own it.
Yeah.
That to me is the magic.
That's amazing.
Those are the only relationships that I want now.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. If we're acquaintances, like, we hang out and do something, but the only people that are ever going to be in my inner circle are those people. I need to trust you.
Yes.
And you earn my trust by showing up no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm leaning to doing that for people.
I think in a way we're also not attracting the other ones. I feel like when you heal it, you don't attract that kind of people anymore.
No, it stops.
It just stops, right? Like in a way, and I always notice that about my own process is that when somebody sneaks around it, it's like, okay, there's still something else that I need to learn.
Agreed.
Agreed. Like the first thought in my mind, any single time that something that happens that it's challenging, because I don't want to say that it's bad, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, what the fuck do I need to learn now? It's like, it doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt any less. It doesn't mean that it's going to be not as frustrating, but it's just will definitely be for me. Yeah. And I think That's a big change. Okay, so I think this
change.
is the longest episode so far.
Okay. All right.
But we cannot leave until I ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
They're kind of like a rapid fire-ish.
Okay.
It's okay if you have to explain or in the middle. But it's kind of a questionnaire that came around in my life a long time ago, and I'm obsessed with it.
Okay.
So first thing, what's your favorite word?
Favorite word?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. You're talking to a writer.
I know, I just noticed that.
Pick
Top
a
5.
word.
No, it's not like movies, though, to pick a favorite word now that I say.
That's really hard.
Okay, least favorite word.
Oh, that might be easier.
Uh-huh. We can come back to it. There's more questions.
Can we come back around to that one?
Okay.
Okay.
What's your favorite sound?
Ooh. Water. Like a creek.
Okay, like flowing water?
Yeah, it's a flowing water.
Okay.
Or crickets at night at my house.
Ooh, you get those. Yep. That's so true.
Yep.
I love that sound. Reminds me of childhood, actually. What's your least favorite sound?
Those loud motorcycles, the choppers.
Oh
my God.
The ones that like light up other cars when they're on the
All
way.
those people should be arrested. Yeah. There's a lot of those in LA too.
There is a lot.
Buying one of those is like a fuck you to everyone else. Yeah, they set off car alarms.
They do.
Yeah.
They set off car alarms. I know that. So
I have strong feelings. I might have to do a process about it.
In the last one of the episodes that I recorded, there was a very, I would say, almost dramatic response. It was one of them.
Oh wow!
And I was like, just FYI, I think you should check that.
Look into that.
Not with me,
Yeah.
but just look in and see
totally.
what's up. Okay, have you thought about the word? Favorite word or least favorite word?
Favorite word, I'm gonna go with favorite word. Oh my God.
I'm gonna give you a little story. There was one answer that I got not in this podcast a while ago, and it was a favorite word to say, to write, or to read. And I was like, whoa, I never thought of that. And I actually have a favorite word to write because of the calligraphy of it.
What is it?
Object.
Object.
The B and the J together. That movement up and down.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
I love to
write.
I know. So to write, I know that that's one of my favorite objects. It has to do with the fact that there's a swing up and down with the calligraphy.
I like to write. I really like to write every morning in my journal. I write the date. And I do it in a very specific way, and I like make a kind of a graphic out of it.
Okay.
And I like to do that.
Okay.
I love writing. I love writing like numbers and doing it very crisply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm a Virgo. Like I love details, and I love those like perfect twos. 2 0 2 2. You know.
Yeah, I so get that. I have a couple of Virgos that I'm gonna clip this part and send it to them right now. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know the favorite word. I'm
okay. You don't have to.
I'm hamstrung.
No, it's okay. You can think about it or not.
Okay.
Last question. If God exists, when you die and you arrive to heaven, to the pearly gates, what would God say to you?
Great job in there.
Nice. Nice. Well, this is it.
There may be a high five even.
Oh, that's cool.
Everybody deserves a high five after they've lived a life.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's not easy.
I think everybody deserves a hug and a drink.
A hug and a drink, totally. Maybe a line of Coke. No, just kidding. No, but it's like stardust. You know, it's a stardust. It's like there's no hangover.
Okay, it's perfect up there.
Yeah,
got it.
But I really think like it's like a awesome job.
You
know?
did it.
No matter what you did,
yeah.
Like you really.
That was
it's
kind
of like like the manager will like pat the guys on the butt in baseball.
Yeah,
it's kind of like one of those. Yeah,
you did it. I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of it is. I think it's Earth school is a tough school to be in. So I think anybody with any experience will be like, "Hey, okay."
What are you laughing about? So what'd you think of my game? You know?
He's like, guess what? It? Nobody wins, nobody loses. Yeah. That's why it was so fucked up.
How'd you like the show?
That'd be awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. That was really fun.
It was so much fun. And then remind everybody to subscribe, go, write, comment, whatever you want, share. And I just want to keep having conversations. Maybe I feel like a lot of people will have questions.
Okay.
And it'll be awesome if I do get them, and then we can do kind of like answering more questions about everything that we talked about. That was awesome.
It'd be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you.